Representative Dauphinais of the 44th, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a few comments to make.
Please proceed.
Like the rest of this room, I've been here all day for the last 12 and a half hours listening to the debate. I just wanted to share my background here and what I know of how good Connecticut was and could be and where we're at now. I came here to Connecticut in 1970. My dad was in the Navy and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And we came here. He was stationed in Quonset Point, Rhode Island, and he bought a chicken farm. So we were a lower middle-class family, 3 children. My dad retired from the Navy and he decided to open up a business. He opened up a tractor business. And I can remember still the day that business opened, there was only, I think, 3 tractors in that showroom, and they put everything that they had on the line for that business. So I grew up watching that business and how they struggled to get that started. I grew up knowing the work ethic that we had to do. I had many, many jobs. We worked on an egg farm. I worked at a greenhouse. I did a lot of babysitting. And I, too, was a waitress for many, many years, trying to earn some money to support myself when I was young, buy my own car, buy my own clothes, and then later supporting my family when I had children to supply and supplement the income that my husband was making at the time, and he was in the military. And then to better myself, I went to school, so I was both working, going to school, and taking care of 4 children, and my husband and I worked very, very hard to make that meet. And never once did I expect the government to mandate anybody I worked for to give me more money. Never once. I worked hard and continued and pressed on to be where I am today. I remember the days when the economy was really, really good in Connecticut. You could literally get up in the morning, work a job, quit your job, and get another job later that day. That's how many jobs were available. The economy was robust and things were doing very, very well. And then we had income tax that came in. We had mandates and regulations and more taxes. And I've watched the state and the economy go down and down and down, and more people leaving. When my parents opened up their business, it was to make a living. It wasn't to provide jobs, but they were fortunate enough to do well with their business, and the outcome was that they were able to provide a few jobs. And as they grew, they were able to provide a few more jobs. But they still have that business today. My father's no longer here. My mother runs it with my brother. My 85-year-old mother still does the bookwork. And they're a very modest business, but I can tell you that every single cost and regulation that's pushed down on them from this state is making it harder and harder and harder for them to stay open. So what happens when we force wages to go up? People look at what they have because they obviously are doing it to make an income. And so they look at how can they make up that cost. So they either drive those costs up and it goes on to the consumer, or they sometimes look at things like cutting back hours, laying people off, making choices to perhaps close. And I've heard of other entrepreneurs who have thought about opening a business who are saying, I would never open a business in Connecticut. I think, I hear over and over again that many people are saying that businesses aren't going to be affected and they can absorb this cost, but that's not what I'm hearing. I have a family who has a business. I go to many, many Chamber of Commerce meetings, and I have had many, many emails and calls from businesses who are saying this is going to destroy them or cause them to lay people off or not be able to hire more people. I don't think it's our job to put people out of work. That's not our role as legislators. And I've been really disappointed today to watch everyone in this room and their inability to compromise and work together across the aisle. I heard over and over again in APROP's different committee meetings, we promise we'll work with you. We'll make this better. We had 9 amendments, I think, today, and not one time was there compromise, not one. And I'll close with this. We all say we're fighting for the elderly. They're the most vulnerable in our state, and we want to do what we can to help them. But I'm going to tell you that they're probably the ones that are going to be most affected with this wage increase. Their wages aren't going up. They're on fixed incomes, struggling to buy food, pay their taxes, perhaps get somebody in to help them and buy their medications. We hear all the time that they don't have enough money for that. So while all the costs go up around them, their income is staying the same. So I'm imploring you to think about them. And I think my good friend, Representative Case, talked about the disabled as well. Our most vulnerable individuals in this state are going to be impacted the most by this in a very bad way. I will not be supporting this bill today, and I urge all of you to join me to come across the aisle and work together for some compromises that we can all agree on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Madam.